The Sean Singh YouTube channel is all about giving you, the viewer, a behind the scenes look at what business is really like. In today's video, you're going to get to see how we develop and scrutinize work portfolios, something which I see a lot of content writers and organizations get terribly wrong. You're also going to learn how the halo effect applies to marketing, something which most marketers are not cognizant of. So make sure you check out the video, and if you like it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
So right off the bat, I mean, it's just you've really brought everything together. I mean, what I really like about this first page is it looks really authentic, and it just hits the nail on the head. Could serve 40% more customers with VE. Value add is clear there, and it's enticing. Like, what, really? And hey, I don't actually have any reason to doubt you or be skeptical. I can see the business, I can see the logo. You're going to tell me more about your client. I'm thinking this is a really credible claim, and that's what makes it not a claim. I could skim through this. Loved this. You know, real life images, real nice intro as to who the client is. With a nice outlining of the problem. Introduction to the resource, which is fine. You've taken a slightly different approach to the one I might have, but that's fine. It works. You know, we need that diversity and approach as well, so that there is certainly you don't have to follow a strict template in your flow, and it works. I loved this. This is really well thought out, and it just kind of summarizes the value you are providing, and well, I would say the value an expert brings. This is what the client thinks the problem is. This is actually what the problem is. The iceberg really captures that beautifully. Well done on using this analogy. And that's thinking out the box and thinking, you know, it's really thinking about how to present the content and giving the user a really seamless experience. So it's nothing. Content doesn't always have to be something radical or really, you know, groundbreaking and earth-shattering. You actually haven't done any of that in this piece. Sometimes it doesn't need to be that. A lot of the times it doesn't need to be that. But you do sometimes have to think creatively or out of the box as to how to convey the content. And that's what you've done here. You've thought to yourself, okay, how do I capture this? How do I capture the essence of the value VE provided? And then you thought, okay, hey, why not use an iceberg analogy? Because it's something people can relate to and understand quickly, and it enables you to succinctly articulate the experience the client had, or rather the solution we provided. It's brilliant. I love it. My only critique of this work portfolio would be is that I'm not a fan of soul. I just didn't like the soul part, and then I got it. You meant solution, but that's the only thing that made me think for a second. And it's a nice mixed bag. You got a bit of psychology in there. You got I think maybe you could give a little bit more detail here on how he redesigned the landing page, maybe a little bit more technical substance to it. Possibly, I think this is designed to be a bit of a quick and succinct read, though, which is fine. Maybe a little bit more, possibly a little bit more technical to that. Really good. I liked it. I think it's a design not to be like, you know, so in depth, and that's again where that diversity in work portfolios comes in. So if I was to be really critical, I mean, going over it a second time, I think maybe you could give a little bit more specifics as to, you know, maybe before and afters, or how you tweak the ads and why those tweaks were really key for improving performance. That would probably be one small critique I'd have, you know, on this one. So even here, like when you're changing a CTA, there's actually quite a lot of thought process that has to go into it. That would help demonstrate you as an authority, where you really kind of micro analyze something as small as that, and unbox it for the client and explain why this is so important. That could be perhaps, you know, obviously the work portfolio will get a little bit more bulky if you do that. So, you know, there's a trade-off there if you want to do that. But, you know, if I was to be super critical, I think, you know, maybe a few little opportunities to just expand a little bit deeper, and even on this one. And so, you know, the exact experience and skills you're bringing to make these changes and transformations are really clear. And probably make the same argument here. But again, I mean, I get a really good feeling looking at this. I think, look, also as well, I think what's interesting as well is, it depends what frame of mind you're in. And I think it also depends massively, I do reference it, but I don't think we talk so much about how critical it is. And that is the halo effect. When you get somebody kind of interested right off the bat, it just has that biasing factor. I just looked at this, I was like, oh, like, I don't like reading emails, and I don't particularly like doing these reviews. I have a lot of work to do, and I would rather be doing that. So when I open this, and my mindset shifts from how do I go through this work portfolio as quickly as possible to, oh, actually, I'm a little bit intrigued. I'm like, oh, this is our client, 40% more. When you get me to make that shift, right, from um, I don't really want to read this, but I have to read it too. Actually, I'm reading it because I'm now genuinely curious. What I find is that I'm far more biased in your favor when I'm reading subsequent sections. Now, had I not liked the beginning part, I might have come down really hard on you here and been like, you needed to change this or you didn't. But that's the power of the halo effect. Now, the key question, of course, is if customers will also have that halo effect. Will they find, hey, this is really nice, professional, well presented, easy to read copy, and they're like nodding their head, that looks impressive, this looks good. And then maybe as they get deeper into it, they won't call you out so much on, okay, you can't say you redesigned the landing pages. I mean, what did you do? Did you improve the site speed? Did you change the design? And if so, what type of design principles did you use? Did you use some Zero principles? Did you change the content? Did you use better copywriting? And if so, what? You know, maybe I think that certainly happens for me. Um, so I think that first couple of sections is really key when you, and this is the other thing as well, which is an important consideration and one I haven't really touched on for quite some time. Ease leads to likability, right? Because when we have to invest cognitive effort, um, we don't like expending that energy and that effort, and then that makes us not like what we're reading, irrespective of if it's impressive or good. So there's that ease factor to it because I think, where I'm gliding through something and I'm not having to work to read it, I'm probably far more forgiving. Whereas if you'd got me right at the beginning where I'm like, oh, this makes no sense, oh, this doesn't look good, then I'd probably really be calling you out because now I don't like the page. I'm far more on high alert to spot anything that I missed. Because I just noticed that in the first time I read it, I loved it. The second time I still love it, but I'm noticing one or two gaps that I actually maybe this could be a little bit more authoritative or have a little bit more substance and detail and specifics to it. So that's an interesting thing, and I think it's interesting because could clients potentially also experience a similar phenomenon where you might have somebody technical who doesn't put you under the microscope as much if they've already liked what you said, and so they're not thinking in their mind, but okay, I really don't know how deeply technical you are. I know you did something and it looks professional and it made a change, but you haven't explained to me, for instance, some of the core principles of great copywriting for Google Ads. One I often cite, I don't know if it's still the case, but higher click-through rates leads to a lower cost per acquisition and a higher quality score. So putting something like that here, it's snippets like that which really add that technical substance, which would complement this perfectly. So high click through rates equals higher quality score equals lower cost per acquisition. We achieved this by deploying our copywriters who shifted from a very advantages based copywriting approach to one that incorporated emotional psychology into the copy, right? Something like that, you just feel like, wow, okay, do you know what I mean? That's just a not just so if you need to do that for all these, really ideally to have that real deep technical substance. Now a technical person might be sitting there and a marketing expert might be sitting there thinking at the same time, like, you haven't really told me that much here, and whilst this looks credible, but they might forgive it if you've already made it that slippery slope and that I kind of like what I'm reading already. So that's the power of liking what you're reading. I think my working hypothesis would be it's far more likely to overlook issues they might otherwise pick up on. So, why you absolutely need the start of your work portfolio and any content to be absolutely spot on, because uh, you know, when we like somebody or something, we're just massively biased. So we don't punish as severely as we otherwise would. So even me, you see, like I'm now thinking actually there are a couple of possibly gaps here, but I'm like, hey, it's still it's good enough. I still overall really like it, so it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and we need some diversity in our work portfolios. So isn't that interesting how that psychology works? And I definitely think even for somebody technical, they might be like, okay, they haven't gone into that, but I'll ask them those questions on the phone, or it's still impressive enough. Do you start justifying why you like it? So I think that's very, very important to keep in mind, because it's something that you can leverage in the future. Because in case is something you miss, or you didn't always go into as much technical depth as you ideally should have or could have, if overall you had a good user experience, reading user experience in particular, it still gives you that leeway and that room. But if the beginning sections are terrible or hard to read or don't make sense, then I'm just like, oh man, they're not really telling me that much. So I don't know if you are really an expert in Google AdWords. Redesigning the ads doesn't mean that much. Tell me the method you use to redesign the ads. So then you start to become quite critical, and you're really looking at anything that's been missed.